Pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 231 of the laws of 1976, the Open Public Meetings Act, Mr. Gray and myself notified the public that notice of the date, time, location, and agenda of this meeting, to the extent known, was provided at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting in the following manner: by posting such notice on the public announcement board of the Lakewood Public Board of Education offices and the Lakewood Township Municipal Building, by mailing such notice to the offices of the Asbury Park Press and the Tri-Town News, by filing such notice with the board secretary, and by mailing such notice to all individuals who requested and paid for a copy of the same.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Fink. Mrs. Gonzalez. Mrs. Micchio. Mr. Seidler.
Here.
Mr. Silver.
Here.
Mr. Tift.
Here.
Mr. Slatkin.
Here.
Mr. Ostreicher. Mr. Grunhut.
Here.
We have quorum.
To the chair. This evening there was a published hearing. We did have a hearing previously published on January 28th, Friday, January 28th, which was advertised in the Asbury Park Press. Today we have an advertisement. Please take notice, the Lakewood Board of Education has scheduled a special meeting, special hearing on Thursday, February 17, 2011, to review the alleged failure of the Lakewood Bus Company, Services Company, to comply with its obligations to the Lakewood Board of Education. The hearing will be held during the special board meeting on Thursday, February 17, 2011 at 8 p.m. at the Administration Building, 1771 Mount Sandy, Suite B, Lakewood, New Jersey. This was published, according to this, February 15th. Mr. Rottenberg is here. If the board secretary would ask him to come in, please. Thank you.
Yeah, that should be done by now.
Alberto, you're going to make that request. Just so the board is aware, during this week, and Gus can explain that, and or Mr. Nels in the audience, our transportation administration, if you will. There were some issues, this alleged issues this week. Mr. Rottenberg did ask to have this hearing in private, if you will, if I'm going to say that right. Okay, and that is left to the discretion of the board. If you would like to have that in private or in public, that is your discretion. Mr. Rottenberg, am I saying that correctly? Do you want to add anything to that request?
No.
Okay. Saying that correctly?
I think so.
Okay. Just so we set the background before you, we decide, or the board decides that. The documentation I'm going to ask the board secretary to pass out to all the members, if you could. Okay, and Mr. Rottenberg can have one too. If you could pass one to Mr. Rottenberg and give one to the board members. You could just take it down. That's great. The pages are numbered on the bottom. This is a quick compilation, just the board members. Thank you. Board members and the administration. You give one to Ms. Bunnell, and the rest can go right here. One to us, and I'll take. You keep one for your records. Okay, we all have. Thank you. What this is a quick compilation. It's not necessarily all the correspondence, but if you look on the bottom right, page 1, this is a letter from our former business administrator to Mr. Rottenberg to appear at the October 27th meeting in the board conference room, which he did appear. If you go to the next page, there's a letter from my office to the owners of NEGBA dated January 24th, 2011, which indicates various concerns. And if you go to page 103, because until then it's the documentation regarding that, page 103, is the letter from my office dated January 25th to Mr. Rottenberg, including additional situations. Page 119 is my letter of January 27th with backup. February 2nd is on page 123 with backup. February 10th is page 128 and backup. February 15th is on 135 and backup. And finally, February 16th. I direct your attention to page 135. And Mr. Romberg should correct me if I am incorrect. On February 15th, which brings us to this evening, that was a letter written, one of several written to Mr. Rottenberg, indicating that there are additional complaints, and indicating, this is page 135, number on the bottom right, indicating that please be advised the board has scheduled a hearing to occur on Thursday, February 17th at 8 p.m. Please be advised the board may take additional action due to your alleged non-performance, including but not limited to reporting the situation to the County State Office of the Jersey Department of Education, requesting county or state action, and or the consideration of additional rounds to be serviced using alternate methods. And then it does have Mr. Romberg, as you're aware, you have the right to bring any and all documentation, counsel, witnesses, etc., to refute the allegations herein, and or to substantiate any claim position you may have. So on a procedural issue, Mr. Romberg, did you receive this letter?
Yes.
You did receive all these letters? Okay. So now, it's the board's pleasure, if they would like to have this hearing in public or private, there is nothing what precludes you from doing either.
We definitely should have, there's only two names to the public, we should definitely hear those, even if we were to go.
I'm sorry, sir.
Regardless.
I'm not.
I was saying there's two names for the public that would like to speak. We probably should at least take care of that before we contemplate any other plans to go out or in or whatever.
Well, let me ask, there's two people signed up here, William Abde and Roxanne Martin. Are you here to discuss the issue of Lakewood Bus Company? That would be yes or no.
If we have a vote on this, I would prefer to do it after the hearing.
Okay. And
This is on the agenda.
right, I'm just asking. And Roxanne Martin, are you here? I think I saw it.
She should do it after.
She said she should do it.
Okay. Where's Roxanne?
Outside.
Oh, okay. All right. So now we've done that. So what is the board's pleasure?
Is there any specific reason to do it in closed?
There's no specific reason to do it in closed. The vendor has asked for that, am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Why?
Ask him.
I think in private, we could be more frank and get more to the points than public.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I think that most of the public came because they would like to hear what we're going to talk about. I think that's why they're here. So we should stay here and talk about what we're going to talk about. There's no secrets.
I think we got to the point last hearing, most of it is compiled in this 200-page list over here. I know there were some promises made in public at the last hearing. From what I've been hearing, there hasn't been much of a change since the last hearing either. So I'm just kind of confused what more we could accomplish if we went into closed doors or what we can accomplish here.
Up to you.
Okay, the pleasure of the board. Okay, to stay in open session, if you would call that. If you say yes, that means yes. If you say no, that means no.
Mr. Seidler.
Abstain.
I have one question. There was sunshine problem going in private?
This is not, if you're going to take board action voting, that has to be done in public. But to discuss with the vendor his performance or not, that is your decision. But you can't vote. The only exception to the sunshine for voting is on tenure charges. Tenure charges, all action is taken in private. This is not tenure. You would have to come out here and vote. The vendor has asked for an opportunity to speak with you. That doesn't preclude you from speaking to him and coming out and holding the hearing. But this is the only item, as I know, on the agenda tonight. Am I wrong?
So how about,
I don't,
could we just go into 10 minutes here, what it is that he has to say, that he doesn't want to say in public, and then come back out?
it's your pleasure. If you're taking board action, you need to do that in public. Board action needs to be in public. Discussion with a vendor, if it's contractual in nature, you can discuss that in private. But any official action you're going to take needs to be in public.
I think what Mr. Zeidler is saying, we should go in and then continue the public hearing. By voting to go in, we're not saying that the hearing
All right,
is
well,
done indoor.
if I hear that correctly, if that's your pleasure, you're saying 10 minutes, that would be till 8:35. Is that your pleasure? Be advised, there could be no action discussed, and can only be very limited discussion as to the contractual obligations of the vendor. If that's your understanding, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, our transportation director's presentation should happen in public.
That is correct.
Why don't we have that first, and then that could help Mr. Rottenberg's response?
If that's your pleasure, then fine.
Let's have the presentation from Gus prior to any other action or going to the back, and then we can take it from there. That's my opinion.
Mr. President?
Is that okay with you? I mean, I imagine you want to go in private because it's embarrassing. That's what I imagine.
No, not really.
No?
I want to speak for real, you know.
You can speak for, that's the problem. I don't think you have any problem speaking for real in front of this board. I don't think so.
More comfortable for me in private.
It's up to you. If
For
it's
me,
was embarrassing, I would.
If it's up to me, I asked for private, that means I want private, so it's up to me.
I have no problem. If you ask for private, you ask for private before or after Mr. Gus's, after Gus's report.
I like it before.
If you would like, let me stop this because we have advertised the meeting. The only item on the agenda is this matter. If I'm wrong, tell me. But the vendor wants to speak regarding contractual issues. He has the right to do that. If he wants to do it, limit it to a certain amount of time in closed session. And then you need to, don't mind me, be big boys. And if you're going to take action, and nothing against it, I'm not saying they should or shouldn't, that needs to be in public. But this was advertised as a hearing. The vendor is asked to do a portion of the hearing. It's not going to be the hearing in there. He's going to have a chance to discuss whatever he wants to tell you. That is not the hearing. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
My recommendation is we proceed with Gus's report first, and then we can vote on it afterwards. That's what I personally recommend.
Okay?
We should hear Gus's report, and then we should hear the vendor inside, and then come out and decide.
We could do the roll call after Gus's report.
May I suggest this? Because once again, I don't quite understand. It would be my sound advice. Listen to Mr. Rottenberg. If you're going to do this, let him tell you whatever he wants to tell you there. Thank you, Mr. Rottenberg.
10 minutes, let's go.
So, and then get it over with, and then the public, if there's going to be information, let's do it out here. But I'm not telling you what to do, but surely what I just heard, no disrespect, but I'm just...
10 minutes.
10 minutes, it's now 8:26, we'll be out at 8:36.
It's 8:27.
Thank you.
Well, everyone just has to say yes.
All in favor of going to closed session for 10 minutes? Under the new law, there will be public portion, because every meeting must have public portion. We do have the sign machine.